She could be an acquaintance, neighbor, sister, mother, daughter, wife. She is an amazing woman, vibrant and happy. But what if the unimaginable happens? What if she is diagnosed with breast cancer?
When I got out of the shower one day and in the mirror, I happened to notice that the right breast had changed.
I had had a baseline mammogram at 38, and they saw calcifications, which they said were benign.
A few months after my most recent mammogram, I noticed a lump.
Obviously, that was a sign something was not right.
And once the ultrasound was done, that actually surfaced the lump, and it was a 4-centimeter tumor.
The cancer was in 2 different quadrants of the left breast, and we elected to do a double mastectomy.
He did an ultrasound to see if he could spot any unusual findings. What he noticed was distortion in the picture on the ultrasound, which is indicative of a form of cancer.
And the decision was made to have surgery, and then I started chemo and radiation.
Definitely had to go through chemo, and it just kept, every step of the way, it just kept progressing and getting scarier.
How am I going to tell my sons? How am I going to help them through this as well as get me through it?
I mean, cancer is scary, I know that, but if you catch it early, you can survive.
These unimaginable stories are far too common. The fact is, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with this cancer during their lifetime. And a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer every 2.2 minutes.
But these sobering figures don't tell the whole story. Imagine another view of breast cancer and these statistics. Up to 20% of all breast cancers could be diagnosed earlier, and with earlier diagnosis, the chance for cure is improved. And early detection can have dramatic results. When discovered in its earliest stages, 95% of women can survive breast cancer. This perspective is the focus of the Be Aware Foundation.
Be Aware started with Tanya Sabula, who had a delayed diagnosis.
What led me to want to co-found this organization was the fact that I realized it wasn't just me. My colleagues, my friends, who I all talked to, and really were impacted by my illness, they had no idea themselves that breast cancer is primarily not a disease of family history, and that really inspired me to want to go out and educate women and men.
Tanya came to me after she was healed from this and said, this is just a devastating experience, and she knew that most of it was avoidable had she just been more knowledgeable.
So I realized, after having gone through it, that you need to personalize the risk, and not all women do that. Then Dr. West had shared with me this program he and his wife, Jan West, had put together. I had them bring it into my company. And I saw the power of my story combined with education and inspiration in changing behavior of women.
Be Aware has 3 main ways to educate women and inspire them to change their behavior. 1-hour lunch and learn programs presented by volunteer nurses and breast cancer survivors, an email reminder program, and our website, www.beawarefoundation.org. The Be Aware Lunch and Learn programs are free 1-hour presentations, ideal for companies or for community organizations interested in promoting breast health awareness.
I think for every woman, it's challenging to take care of your health. I think that just knowing there's a lunch and learn and getting some education about something you might not be aware of, something that can change your behaviors, is worthwhile to go.
Looking at the presentation and where we have a survivor speak as well as having a registered nurse speak, I find that really hits home in that the survivor brings the reality of the situation and brings it to any woman's experience. And by having the registered nurse there, the registered nurse can speak to the clinical side of things.
What attending that session did for me is it really turned a light bulb on. Someone said to me, "Kate, you haven't had a mammogram because you're afraid." And I said, no, that's not why I never had a mammogram. It's because I was never touched personally to change my own behavior. And the Be Aware program did that for me. Again, it really touched me to say, if something happens to you when you could have prevented that from happening, who will take care of your family?
Women who are mothers especially, or wives, or have such busy lives, we tend to put everything else first. And I think that's the one thing women take lightly, is they don't feel like they need to do those self-exams. You know, a lot of times they feel like, well, I know I kind of watch, or I can see, or I'll check it every couple of months, but things can change so rapidly, as was in my case. If I could share my story and I can encourage one person to make a change in their life, that would make everything worth it.
The cost factor for bringing in Be Aware for a Lunch and Learn is just a fantastic investment, and I'll tell you why. You know, a company our size has a multi-million-dollar medical premium that we're paying annually. If we can bring that down through the cost of a lunch for a group of 20 employees, we should be doing that every day of the week. I wish we could be doing it every day of the week, because I think the return we will get on that investment will speak volumes.
During the lecture, we describe the personal plan of action, which gives them steps to fulfill during the year. Afterwards, we ask for their email address so that we can send them monthly reminders if they'd like, or yearly reminders. So when they leave, they're really energetic about not really having to do this all themselves, that someone's going to actually help them. So they have a website that can send them messages, and it seems to be really working for these girls.
The feedback I've gotten from the personal plan of action is very positive. Women are excited about it. In today's busy lifestyle, we all need a reminder of how to take care of ourselves usually. So this is an organization that's looking out for you as an individual.
All of these services, the Lunch and Learns, the email reminder program, and the website, come together to make Be Aware unique from other breast cancer nonprofits. As a nonprofit foundation, Be Aware relies on gifts to provide these vital, life-saving services to women.
The treatment of early breast cancer is relatively inexpensive, and it's very well tolerated. When there's a delayed diagnosis, you have an increased risk of that cancer coming back. And the big expense is treating recurrent breast cancer. There you go to a $500,000 to $1 million tag, and most of those patients end up dying. If we can shift a stage 3 breast cancer to a stage 2 by early diagnosis, a stage 2 to a stage 1, each step down leads to a better survival rate. Each time we have better survival, we have lower costs. So the benefit of moving 5% of the 200,000 women who get breast cancer a year, downstage them, is millions and millions of dollars. It's the best bang for the buck we've got, and it's the most underutilized strategy that we have.
When you contribute, you become a part of our mission to educate, bringing information to women in a welcoming setting among their peers, helping them to understand the facts and the myths about breast cancer.
Well, I think part of our lecture is to break down some of the myths associated with breast cancer and some of the stigma that's associated with your annual mammograms. Explain to them why maybe it hurts. Once we let them know that they're actually getting a better film with some of the pressures that are delivered during that filming, they really have a peace of mind and ease that someone's not trying to hurt them. They're actually trying to take care of them and allow them to live longer.
And just as importantly, you help us as we inspire women, helping them to understand the risks and showing them the consistent actions they can take to increase their chances for early detection.
You know, the big thing is really seeing the change in the behavior of women that are attending. Oftentimes, they will share that they felt that mammograms weren't necessary because cancer didn't run in their family, or they may feel that if they have an annual mammogram, then they don't need to worry about it until the next year. And it's important to have all of these checks in place, to have annual mammograms and to have self-exams happen and to be able to meet with your doctor on a regular basis just to make sure that there is good breast health.
One of the ways that I know we're being successful is when someone I work with comes up to me and says, your program saved my life. That one story is proof for me that this program works.
Finally, your support will allow Be Aware to provide even more services, such as an expanded website and additional outreach to companies and organizations that can host lunch and learn sessions.
We're not so naive to think that one little quickie presentation is going to change a woman's behavior for the next 30, 40 years. We know you need reinforcement. So we're in the process of funding a very elaborate web page that deals exclusively with the issues of early detection. So we think with this process of information, inspiration, reinforcing in the message, engagement, getting a dialogue going, that we are going to change behavior. We're going to save lives. We're going to save dollars. And it's going to be a very, very effective program.
Criticism I've heard of our initiative with Be Aware is that I can't get to the lunch, Kate. I can't make it. I'm not going to be in the office that day. And Be Aware's evolution allows us to direct those employees to the website and still be able to provide the kind of educational benefit that we want to provide and that Be Aware does so well.
We thought that if we could use technology, if we could use a website to remind women what they learned in the program, to remind them to act on the program and what they learned, then we could increase the chance that they would follow early detection guidelines.
One of the great examples that I think that shows the benefit of early detection and how incredible cost savings are involved with this is a patient named Lisa that I saw 8 years ago. And she had gone to the Race for the Cure. She picked up a brochure after the race, went home and was reading the various brochures she picked up, and one was on self-exam. She checked herself out, and darn, she found a little spot. Well, the next day she goes to her doctor, and the doctor said, well, does it run in your family? And she said, no. And he said, well, you're only 28. You know, this is probably just fibrocystic. I wouldn't worry about it. Just see me later if it starts growing. Well, she talked to her friends about this, and they said, you know, you really ought to get a second opinion. And we saw her the next day. We put the ultrasound on it. It was a cancer about 1/4 inch in diameter. We took it out as an outpatient, checked the lower lymph node. She went through a course of radiation, no chemotherapy, no hormone blockade therapy. 8 years later, she has 2 little children, and she's happy as a clam. She caught it early. A 15-cent brochure saved her life.
Please be aware.
Be aware.
Imagine how many other lives can be changed, even saved.
Be aware.
Be aware.
Imagine how many dollars can be saved in healthcare and insurance costs.
Be aware.
Be aware.
Imagine what Be Aware Foundation can do with your help.